Welcome to the Wellspring Digital Chat. I'm John Michael Bailey. This is where we interview marketing experts and bring their brains directly to, well, what's in their brains directly to you. So today we have one of my very favorite speakers and marketers, unmarketers, Scott Stratten. Scott, who are you and why?
That is way too deep of a question
Sorry.
to start something like this off.
Sorry. Let's get deep.
Who?
Scott.
Yeah, yes. Let's see. I should put some background music on and stuff right now. But yeah, I'm Scott. I'm a proudly Canadian speaker and author and ranter about all things unmarketing, unbranding, and unselling. Unmarketing is about bringing customers and clients to you versus going out and going after them by positioning yourself.
I thought we were going to leave the Canadian part out, but maybe we can edit that in post.
We should have you should have believed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll bleep it.
I'm sorry. I don't know what the exchange rate is of the bit rate of this audio going over to you either, but at the border it gets kind of converted.
It's pricey. It's definitely pricey. So I know I say I'm always excited in these interviews, and let me just say that I'm extra super excited about this one because I consider Scott to be a marketing brethren, an appreciator of humor, a speaker who I absolutely enjoy watching. So this should be fun for me. I don't know about you, but I truly hope.
I do need to know. I'm sorry for interrupting. I do need to know where I rank between Jay Baer and Ann Handley in the excitement. You don't have to say it now. You can wait till the end, obviously, for the post-mortem of it. I don't need to put you on the spot, but you need to be on the spot about it.
I don't mind throwing Jay Baer under the bus, but Ann Ann is so sweet and cuddly. You just,
I'd rank them both above me, to be honest with you. But
well, you're a good person. I'm not. So
there we go.
All right. So I really hope that we can get deep into some marketing, maybe some untruths and truths and your opinions and all that good stuff. So our core principles, I don't know if you can see it behind me. You probably can't even read that, but I'll read it for you. At Wellspring Digital are integrity, transparency, and results. You operate under the similar set of integrity, transparency, and authenticity. So if you'll excuse a Rush reference, can all of this machinery making modern marketing still be open-hearted?
You don't put Rush into my head, then ask me to talk. Right?
I know you're Canadian. It's like your national anthem.
I'm just like yeah. So our three are authenticity, integrity, and community. And
I screwed it up.
That's okay. It's close, but it's close. But if I'm going to pick three words, I got to make sure they're right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It works all together. And with like for us, and by the way, I've totally forgot your question because Rush threw my brain for a loop.
Can all this machinery making modern marketing still be open-hearted?
Well, this is the thing. So when people hear something like authentic, they think obviously it's an individual doing something. It's like me reaching out to you in an email, and it's us talking and being true, and it's an overused term a lot of the times. And so for us, authenticity is simply about that when you are your authentic self, you have no competition, and that for us means like you're not trying to be second best at something or trying to copy. You could have swipe files, you can have best practices. I love reading case studies and best practices, but it's about going always back to those words, those three words for us, and like how does this fall under this umbrella? But then you hear something like scale or automation, and people are like, that could be evil, and people think I'm like that, and I am not. I think there is a wonderful marriage between an automation and also authenticity, or scalability and authenticity, where it's under the guise of either context or frame of reference for people. And I'll give you an example. The best example I can give in-house for you is like, I am so against automating things on social media. I've been always against that. I've been saying that since I joined rise.com in 2014, which was pre-like LinkedIn, 2004, pre-LinkedIn.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, man, dude. And you should see my profile photo from that. Epic. And But it was the same idea from then it is till today, which is if you try to automate, relationships or automate social or conversations, it's like sending a mannequin to a networking event. You're
Right.
there, but you're not there. But for us, if you sign up for like something like the newsletter, like our newsletter, for 17 years, I've been using the same welcome email. 17 years. I haven't changed.
Wow.
And when you sign up, so obviously when you sign up for a newsletter, you're already preconditioned to know that you're signing up for a newsletter. So when it gets sent out, you will receive it. You're not expecting, this isn't a contact us. This isn't a chat bot. This is what you're expecting. What do you usually get after you sign up for a newsletter? An automated thing back saying you've signed up or you've signed up. Here's the info you signed up for. I don't understand that at all. I also love the ones where there it says we're just doing it so you can confirm, your email address is right, and they send it in an email. we can pause for commercial break if you want to think about that for a while. But when you get to the point, so when somebody signs up, they automatically get an email, but from me, from my email address that says, "Hey there, thank you." We don't do first name, so we don't do merges like that.
Yeah.
I just said, "Hey there, thanks so much for signing up for the Unmarketing newsletter. We know how busy how crowded an inbox can get, and we appreciate a slot within it. May we ask what line of business you're in? We always love to try to tailor our newsletter to our audience, and we find it fascinating to see which different areas people are from. Thanks so much, Scott Stratten, President Unmarketing." Every day.
17 years.
Every day. Almost every day. Once in a while you don't.
Yeah.
Almost every day I get a reply from that.
Wow.
Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm doing this. From the mundane to the fascinating. And I tell you, I reply to almost everyone because it takes me 7 seconds to do it. And I reply back saying, and most of the response is, I know this is automated, but I wanted to answer anyways. And then I reply back, automated is one of the nicest things I've been called this week. Thank you so much. And then I mentioned something about where they are, because luckily for me, in the past 10 years, my only job has been speaking at conferences. So I've got to travel to so many places.
Sure.
And since the main concentration of the sign up of the newsletter is North America, and I've covered almost all of North America in my travels, I always have some kind of reference to where they are. So somebody literally just before I came on this interview wrote back and said, "Hey," and they're in the Gulf Coast. They're in Alabama, and they're a realtor. And I'm like, "Oh, I was in the Gulf Coast 8 months ago. Went here. Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks again for signing up." And I'm telling you, the reply back from that part is all caps almost every time. "Oh, I can't believe you actually replied." And that's for me is something that's using scale. So the newsletter automation, plus if it gets too busy or I get too busy, I don't have to reply to it. But the fact is I can still reach out and because the biggest thing I think somebody can do is give you their email address and say, "Add to my clutter in my inbox." Like they're literally saying, "You're worth adding onto this pile." Now, if they give you their cell phone number, that's like, now you're married. Like that's the ultimate give of privacy and information. But when somebody signs up for a newsletter, they're saying, "I trust you. I find your content valuable. I want to keep happening." And we thank them by stating what they just said to us, my email address and this and this. Like we have a golden opportunity to say hello and to return the high five with them and
to engage.
We come up. We just whiff almost every time on that. And for us, it's been set it and forget it that way. And I love it, man. I have so many fascinating conversations with people on email from all different places. I'm a huge sports fan. And I'm a huge music industry. That's where I got my start fan.
Right.
So people in those worlds, like I had somebody from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's like I do digital marketing for and I was heading there 2 months later, like on a pilgrimage. And it was so cool. And how else would I gotten to know that?
Right.
It's so great. And I love that.
So is it fair to say that it's really just a question of your honesty? Yeah, your honesty. Sorry, I'm just finishing the line from the song.
Just keeping with the rush, man. I dig it. I dig it. That's the closest place to a Canadian's heart.
Oh, absolutely. So you had a recent post about the sales funnel versus the sales cloud, and one line which really hit me was, I'm going to read it. Once someone is in your traditionally viewed funnel, the goal is more about not messing it up because they've come to you with information. So I really think that B2B companies miss this all the time. And I wonder if you could maybe explain the concept of a sales cloud as it relates to a B2B marketer, because I really think they need to hear this.
what it comes down for us is what we call B2B especially, and I'm glad you brought this up, is that they get funnel vision, right? They get this funnel vision, which is when somebody steps into my funnel, whether I'm going out to hook them into it or I get a lead, we assume like that's the start of their investigation. That's the start of their inquiry. That's the start of their interest. And it used to be partially that way. You know, back in the day, 15 years ago, you'd go to your industry's trade show, you'd see what's in the booths and the industry rags, and you'd figure stuff out and you'd put, I would like to learn more about this.
Right.
And now you look at any study, there's so many studies out there, 65%, 45%, 55% of people research before they actually reach out to a company.
Sure.
And you have a lot of these people in B2B sales who are just like, no, but if we reach out to them first, we can beat them to the punch. And they're just like this race to the inbox for people.
Right.
And it's somebody had, and I just read yesterday on LinkedIn a post, and somebody was getting really mad, and they're always a brother from another mother when they get really mad about getting spammed on LinkedIn. I'm like, yep, like I've been yelling about that for a very long time. Awful. And somebody wrote, he's like, this is not how you do sales. This is about relationship building on here. And somebody had in the comment, who was a business development person, of course, said, how else will they find out about the new developments and products in their industry? And I'm like, any other way. I promise you, anybody listening right now, I promise you, I will bet my house. Oh no, it's a crazy time right now. I won't do that. But you know, I'd bet the farm if I had one. I bet the farm on the fact that, you know, nobody is sitting at their desk right now saying, I really need a cloud server solution. I hope somebody just calls me. I pray they call me. No, they can do the work, or they'll find a third party, or they'll do a consultant, or they'll do a vendor like that who can go search for them. But here's the thing. Think about it for a second, right? Why would you this is the biggest part. And I would say this to sales audiences when I'd speak on stage to them, and it would just be quiet in the room. It'd be quiet. And I said, if you as salespeople needed something for your, like let's say sales enablement, which turns into quite the trend in the past recently about sales. It's just helping sales pretty much in one way or the other, getting information. But if you needed a tool to help with that, how would you go about finding which vendor to use? And people would say, I would search the term, I would read some industry publications, I would go and I would demo a few. And then somebody else would be like, I would ask one of my colleagues or somebody I know it's another company what they're using. Next person. I would post on LinkedIn, ask what my colleagues are using in their area. Great. And I'm like, so none of you are waiting for a random phone call. And then it went quiet. And I haven't been asked to speak at that event. Yeah, I haven't been asked to speak at that event again. But this is the problem. We have now, and also I'm not fully against, targeting people and doing cold outreach. There's some way that's just not my world and not my thing. And that's okay if it's yours. And look, if you're snapping necks and cashing checks and going to the Catalina wine mixer soon with all of your sales, fine. Keep doing it. Why are you even listening to this? If it's killing it for you.
I just used that reference right before this interview. See, we are
in sync.
That's amazing.
But the issue with this, that you have this thing where, look, people say, well, it does work, then go do it. But the reason why I created Unmarketing, the entire reason why the book Unmarketing was written, was for people who wanted to market and sell the way they like to be marketed and sold to.
Right.
That's it. And it was the end of hypocritical marketing for me. That was what, look, it's positioning, it's giving content, it's helping learn, it's having content be shared and spread, it's creating evergreen stuff, that type of stuff. That was the point, because especially in B2B sales.
Right.
B2B sales is like it's like the sales world has its own generalizations and stereotypes, but then it's B2B sales world and that whole world of it. And it's just like, it literally gets to the point of that Catalina wine mixer part. And I'm like, this ain't how it works. We have so much more access to information. You still have companies gatekeeping a lot of info. Oh, you want our report? You got to sign up. And I get it. It's a lead generator. And I've done my more than my fair share of white papers and e-books and reports and PDFs and squeeze pages. I love squeeze pages and landing pages and all that jazz. I'm a big fan. But when you say you'll only get the information when we get your information, they're just going to go somewhere else and get it.
Yep.
because it's available. And the problem is, like, that person who posted a comment on LinkedIn saying, well, how will they know about the latest trends and new developments in the industry? Well, the problem is, even if I didn't have any of those systems, I wouldn't go to you, because you're only selling me the products and services you sell. It's not what I want. And this is they just think that, well, once they come in the funnel, I can educate them. No, your job is not to mess it up, because they've already been somewhat educated in that point. And that's the biggest issue. It's why that's why we wrote on selling, was just like, would you stop it? I really believe that the sale, the long-term sale, starts after you sign on the initial sale. Right, especially in B2B, right? This is like renewals, and this is like, you want to build loyalty, and this loyalty isn't like, I really like Pringles chips. This isn't like, I like Starbucks, or here, Tim Hortons. Apologies, Canada. But you have these things. This is 5, 6, 7, 8-figure contracts, right? This is the helicopter buying show. Like, this is the big deal for these people, and it's like, you get that sale and then you hand them off to a lesser equipped group that has been given over promises, and they have no choice but to under deliver. It's not a good thing.
By the way, my wife is from Buffalo, so we have a Wegmans here, and in Maryland, and I am enjoying a cup of Tim Hortons right now.
There you go. You go. There's a very big controversy in Canada, because everybody in Canada calls it Tim's or Timmy's, and I'm the only human on this country that calls it Hortons. So that is the hill I'm dying on.
That's your uncoffee.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I love it.
All right, so I want to take it down a notch, and I wanted to take a moment to offer my deepest condolences regarding your suitcase. I know that can be hard, so I wondered if you could, if it's okay, if you're able, to share with these people your tortured tale of unrequited love shown to a certain suitcase brand, and the lessons that came along with that.
Yeah, thank you. It's a real good snapshot into what I was alluding to earlier in the conversation, which is kind of returning that high five. And we had framed it around returning a brand high five. And what we had noticed, especially early on in the growth of social media and Twitter, publicized social media, especially like Twitter, was brands were on the lookout for putting out fires, and rightfully so. Like, Twitter was turned very quickly into the complaints board, the ripoffreport.com, those type of things, where people would go, because, and rightfully so. And I'd always say that, because because we'd never had a venue before.
Right.
Like, what would happen 20 years ago if you got a bad experience at a restaurant or something? You'd phone them, and the cook would pick up the phone. Right. What? You'd write them a sternly handwritten letter? Like, now we're like, oh, now we're finally being able to say, you didn't treat me the way you're supposed to. You didn't give me what I paid for it. And that's good. That's a good thing overall. Now, we don't all need endless ranting. And I'm sure there's also people who it's not true. There's 3 sides to every story. But this type of stuff is, you have opportunities. And the issue is, when we first got into corporate social media, you kind of gave social media to the intern or somebody, or the co-op or something like that. You can use Tweezer.
You're young.
Yeah, you go use Tweezer and Bookface. You do that. I don't care. It's not business. It felt like it was like in 96 or so, 97, when it came to the internet.
Right.
I remember being at a job that like, oh, we're not going to have a website. That's not our market.
I remember it well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Do you sell to humans?
Yeah.
Because I think they're on there. And you had this whole move of social. Okay, so it was they were only responding to negative replies. So when I would complain about an airline on Twitter, I would get, not only that, I had a big following, so I would get like double. So I'd get a reply, and I'd be like, thank you. And then somebody else replied, well, it must be nice to get help. So it was that was happening. But brands weren't really replying to good ones. But I remember the first, it's in the book, we had where it was, the first brand ever to reply to me was Cirque du Soleil. Right. I remember how that felt in 2009. Because when I said it, because I love Cirque. I just love Cirque's shows. Oh, great. They're Canadian, and I just love it. Anyway, I just seen another show of theirs, and I just said, I just have to say to the world of Twitter, I love Cirque du Soleil. That's all I tweeted. I didn't at them. There was no at to them. I didn't even know they were on Twitter. They wrote back and they said, we love you too.
Oh,
and I'm like, so that was like
right?
the first time. And that was like, brands can actually, wow, they can actually not only make a customer feel good, they can do it publicly. And then
Giddy
barely any
almost.
brands were, brands were barely doing that. So anyways, I find I see this because I traveled so much. I spent the past decade on the road pretty much, where I've averaged 60 gigs a year for almost the past decade. So that's I average about 150 days on the road a year. So a lot of hotels, 100,000 miles plus a year.
Right.
And so suitcases in my life, right? A carry on, and I am carry on or I ain't going.
Yeah.
Like I don't pack luggage. Allison, my wife and business partner and co-author, is also a wonderful carry on. We did like 14 stop book tour on carry on each, including Istanbul.
Nice.
Like we did all these. So
That's
I love
the new
it. So,
punk rock.
Yeah. So for me, like suitcases are my pick your favorite thing in the world. Like suitcases are it's like, oh yes. And so they had this, there's like Kickstarter for this one. And this one has like a built-in USB and all these things. And then, so I love a good suitcase. It's got to roll nice. It's got to stand up well. And so I bought one and I tweeted about it. And I'm like, I bought one. I can't wait for it. Check it out. So I'm actually marketing for this company. I don't
Right.
look, and I don't want a free suitcase. I didn't tweet the passive aggressive, which Canadians are great at. I didn't tweet the, oh, this looks great. I wonder if I should get one with a emoji on it or something. And they look, and at the time, I'm literally like one of the most influential people in Twitter on Canada and top 10 in North America. I could have done that and said, maybe you want to send me one, but I didn't. I got it. I said, I bought it. It's on its way. I can't wait. And then I got it. But they never replied. I tagged them. But anytime somebody tags you, a customer or somebody tags a brand, even if they say, I just love this brand, part of it's looking for a return of the high five, right? If you tag the brand, what you're saying is even just click on a like heart it just once.
You're saying, hey,
it's a great opportunity. Which is fine. I only semi resented it because they didn't, but that was fine. And so then I got it, and then it just kind of sucked. It wouldn't stay standing up. Then the zipper broke first flight, and then it tore. And I'm like, hey, so then people were like, what do you think? Because people were waiting for my opinion. Like this was almost like a review type of thing, and I wasn't even formally doing it. And then I sent a tweet a month later, and I'm like, all right, so this suitcase, and I named the suitcase. I'm like, it was great, other than it wouldn't stay standing up, it wouldn't roll properly, and it tore.
Just those.
And the company immediately replied to me, we are so sorry, we'll look into this now, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing, and I thought about it. If a month before that, when I gave my excitement about it, and they replied, and they followed,
right,
and you got to know them and talk to them, I would have went private with my issue, at least to start. I would have said, hey, because then you get to know the people behind the brand, or you connect with them. There's a humanity to it,
right,
and you feel more connected. And I thought about it. I didn't say it's the right thing to do. It's just honest with the thing I thought, which was I wouldn't have done this if I knew the person, because I went back and thought of the other brands I had tweeted in the past year and gotten to know their social people. I'm like, I'm not that big of a jerk. I wasn't going to out them like that. And so returning that brand high five, I think, is as important or almost as important as replying to a negative tweet or a negative review as well.
It seems to me in some ways to be more important, especially when you're talking about things about, trying to build engagement on social media. There you go. There's an invitation right there.
It's a
perfect opportunity.
It's handed to you on a platter.
Exactly.
And this is what gets me the most. If we go back to that 98, 97, 2000 even, and I came to you, or I sat across the biggest brands there were, I said, hey, I have a method that can hear conversations. And whenever you're mentioned, not only can you see it in real time and hear it, you can respond, and people are okay with it. Would you be in? And every brand would say, yes, please. And I'm like, it's $10,000 a month. And they'd be like, yep.
No problem. Sign me up.
It's the same companies that back in 2011 and 12 and even today, they're like, nah, no need. But if I put a price tag on it, sold it as SaaS,
Right.
maybe made it $1,000 a month, 10 grand a month, plug it into Salesforce, good to go. Right?
It comes with its own server.
It's all right there.
We've got to get this. Yes.
But now you've got this world now, though, too, that even the respect still isn't there in the circles, right? You have social media managers who, by the way, if you are a social media manager, if you're listening right now, for every month you've worked social media since March, I think you should get a paid year off. Like just during all this, like, I mean, like, I'm like, if we're at 7 months now of this, then you should have 7 years paid off. Like, it's just like, nobody signed up for this. Nobody signed up for this at all. And that's the problem. It's just because you are I always used to say social media is like the care traffic controller. You know, it's just like your customer care, right? Your job is to, but it's not your own job, but a big part of that is just saying, okay, this complaint, this problem here, I can direct it over here and kind of going that route. But now it's just like you're all in crisis management and you haven't been given the pay or the training to be able to deal with this on that level. Yet you're not only are you expected to deal with it, you're expected to deal with it without any blowback, without any kind of friction. And it's just not fair at all.
And by this, we're talking about the passing of Eddie Van Halen.
Bingo. What a year.
What a year.
Eddie. That was where I always thought about it, right? Where, you know, people it's like, how many musicians are first name? You know, I thought Vedder was going to dethrone Eddie Van Halen for the Eddie name, but it depends on demographic, I think, too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. But my Eddie will always be Van Halen.
So speaking of demographics, you have one of the best illustrations of the futility in chasing vanity metrics and going viral. And one of my favorite lines currently about the millennial generation. So I'm wondering if you could share the story with these folks.
I can. Yeah. So metrics. So with the millennial stuff, it's funny. I had a rant like I do all the time. And one gig I was at, Allison was at it with me. And I decided I really don't like generalizations, like overall.
Sure.
You know, especially about humans in general and clumping together in anything. But age seems to be one that gets allowed all the time.
Right.
You know, ageism is allowed. And we're allowed to lump people by just sometimes random demographic numbers and say, so I was really pissed at that. And I was speaking at a called Higher Ed Web, a great event of people in post-secondary education who do, you know, digital marketing. And I just looked at Allison right before, like they're reading my bio. And I looked at Allison, I'm like, I'm going to lose it about this millennial crap. And she's like, go get him, baby. And I got up and just in the middle of the talk, I just went off. But I went off on it like I was against millennials. That was the setup.
Right.
So the bit that went viral, which would lead to this conversation about metrics, was me saying, you know, millennials are actually between the ages of 18 and 35, whatever the number was at the time.
Right.
And I said, who in this room is between 18 and 35? And every event, people would put their hand up, and I would feign shock. I'm like, oh, you're here. I was told it was fellow old people. And I said, so millennials in this room, I'm going to translate what us older people mean when we say the word millennials. And so we would switch it around, and I went and I would look at them and I'd say, so when we say the word millennials, working with you, hiring you, selling to you, what we mean is people younger than us, and we don't like you. And I would pause, and there would be the kind laughter like you did right there. And that was and I would pause. I would just freeze on stage, and I would stare at everybody,
right?
And they would laugh, and they would go. So I tested the bit. Like I worked the bit. I model. I research so much about comedians. I don't watch a lot of other speakers. I love.
They're genius.
I really respect the comedy industry. I don't consider myself one because I don't do a comedy club. I have the bar for being funny in business speaking at conferences is so low, it's inverted. Like it's in the ground. Like you don't even have to lift your foot to get over the bar. You have to slide and just not fall.
It's
And
very
so
easy.
people would come up to me at the end of a conference or a keynote. They're like, "You're so funny. You should be a comedian." I'm like, no. This pays better. And nobody heckles me. So it's a bit different. And plus, when I walk out on the stage, they think I'm the sound guy. Like, it's so great. And I play off that. So anyways, the millennial bit, I do that bit and then I flip it on them. So I flip them on them in the middle. But the video I used, because I thought would go well and could go viral, was that joke. So that clip, it's about a 2-minute clip. So I took it and I put it out there as a clip. And at the time, the Unmarketing page had 50,000 followers, fans, whatever you want to call it. And I put it on there, just regular. I closed captioned it and just put the bit out and boom, put it out there. I named the event it was at and everything. And it got a reach of about 250,000 people, which is decent, I guess, when you're looking at the comparative metrics to it. I'm like, it's a 5 times your page, and that's decent. But I wasn't satisfied. I'm like, there's no way this only got that when I looked at the comparative videos out there. I had a comparative size following in the page. And I'm like, nope, this is no way. So I said, where's the friction? Where's the pass along friction? Where is it not resonating? Because the problem with viral is you're always playing to your first circle. We call it third circle, which is you're trying to reach that third circle, which is first circle is who you can reach, your fans, your followers, your employees, your family, your kids, whatever that is immediately. And when they share it, it goes to your second circle, which you can't reach. But when that second circle shares, it has no condition, no obligation, no relationship. When they share it, it goes to the third. That's viral. And I wasn't hitting that. I could tell by the analytics, it wasn't hitting that. And I realized that the videos that were going viral at the time were letterboxed with text across the top and or the bottom that stayed there, which is because it stopped the thumb scroll.
So simple.
And that was a basic thing of the thumb scroll. And I know we're doing a podcast here, but audio wise, but I'm going to show, I can bring the video up here to for the visuals for you, but I will still describe it. So it was that was the difference. It was just a straight video. So I decided to have it letterboxed.
Right.
And I had my video person just put it in a letterbox. So instead of, it just said what old people mean when they say millennials, which the goal is to stop the thumb scroll. That's the entire goal, right? Is to stop it in its tracks, to stop them from actually scrolling anymore. And I changed it. Same exact clip, same length, same audience, I even sent it out to the same base 30 days later. So they'd already seen the original one of this, so that I could lose some momentum that way. And it went from 250,000 person reach to 32 million people reach.
Call it me. I watched it.
Well, that's so, but here's the thing. So that would be the end of the case study sometimes, right? That would be the end of the case study for people when they'd be like, see, there you go. Just match the platform and no, this wasn't the point at all of it.
Right.
It was actually the faulty metric, the vanity metric, because 32 million people reached means nothing. That is literally the same as a billboard company saying 35 million cars drive by here. There's nothing to do with your thing. It has the potential to be seen by that because it was served in somebody's news feed, but it doesn't. So go from 32 million reach, but then it says 13 million views. And I'm like, okay, you've got to match. I love metrics. I love metrics, but I love actionable metrics. I love metrics we can do something with. We can sink our teeth into, say, so was this successful? And you won't know until what is the metric you're trying to use. And for me, it was just longer viewings of it. My success metric was people inquiring about a keynote, like for me to come to their event. But the real metric was them actually watching it for an extended period of time. So 13 million views is still not the metric I matter. That is still a vanity metric because a view on Facebook is 3 seconds or more. That's not a view. That's a whiff.
Right.
You ever walk by somebody's cubicle or something like that and you think they farted, but you're not sure? That's a 3 second passing of time from the smell to the curious to the continue walking. That's a whiff. It is not an engaged viewer. and people say, because YouTube is 30 seconds, which is true. YouTube is 30 seconds, or unless the video is under 30 seconds, then it's the duration, most usually. But there's also a difference in YouTube when it comes to the context of a view. And a view isn't a view isn't a view. And I'm not just talking about the measurement metric of a view that is 30 seconds versus 3 seconds, which is a giant difference.
Right.
But the other huge part about a YouTube view being so much more valuable as an individual unit is because it's usually majority of time, a destinational view. You went looking for it. A Facebook view can be serendipity. We just happened to scroll and it's served up. YouTube's a search engine.
Right.
I am going to see this thing. So I would take a YouTube view over a Facebook video view over 10 seconds, over 20 seconds, over any day of the week.
Sure.
Because they're this is like a warm lead or a cold lead type of thing for me. Right? I'm looking for the right thing. So instead of 13 million views, I need to keep digging there. So I dig even more, and you click down the analytics, and then I get to see that, okay, it's not 13 million that watched it for any length of time. It shows you in Facebook, in analytics, it'll show you 10-second views, which is their judgment saying, you know what, this is actually the view. Why they don't show you this on the surface? Well, you and I both know why. But it's just, metrics are like, look what we did. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. It was like Google Plus saying they have 300 million monthly active users. I'm like, you can't even smell your own, right? You can't smell it. You're so around your own BS, you can't even smell it anymore, right? Okay, good.
Yep.
So you dig deeper into 10 seconds view, and Facebook says my video didn't have 35 million, didn't have 13 million, but had 4.8 million 10-second views. But that is still not the metric that matters to me, because you can dig deeper. And that metric is with sound on over 10 seconds was actually 3.4 million people. That's the metric I can actually start with now.
Right.
Because the point of this is, if you don't watch it with me speaking, you can't hear the audience laughing. You can't hear me speaking. That's not the view that helps me.
Right.
As the producer of the content. That's fine if you watch it and spread it or you don't. But the point is, that is the effect I want. So that's 3.4 million. And 1.3 million people watched it over 10 seconds without the sound on. And I don't know why. I seem like an angry mime. Like there's no context to it. It's me just flailing my arms around. And so you have this world where the metrics have to be proper. The metrics have to, to do the right, what we want.
Sure.
And this is the problem. Now, if your boss or your client likes the vanity metrics, then yeah, go on and do your bad thing. Do yourself. Like, you give them the metrics they want. But as marketers, if we are about integrity or authenticity, let's find the real numbers. Let's figure out what is actually working. But even this, and this is what we didn't reveal on a post or on a talk or any time. So you're getting like a scoop here.
Ooh, sweet.
Is that even because I used to say at the end of this thing when I would talk to a marketing audience, and I had a talk was called Data, Digits, and Dummies, right? And it's about how just that we can be misleading with data and ethics and a whole bunch of stuff. And I would always say, so I put out my speaker demo though, a month after this, my trailer, 4-minute trailer of my sizzle reel, as we call it. And it got 4,000 views over 10 seconds with sound on, but I got like 8 inquiries about, so like, which is the better video? And everybody's like, oh, obviously the 4,000 one. And we're like, yay, and we all high five and we leave. But here's the thing. What had happened a year or so after was that the viral one didn't lead to direct inquiries directly from the video. But as I started talking to people a year down the road, because conferences get planned a year out, sometimes 2 years out, sometimes 6 months, a year, 2 years, about 6 or 7 conferences that following year, when I would find the conference org and talk to them, because I always want to find out how they found me originally.
Sure.
Right. Always doing the metrics, always trying to give the attribution to the right place. And one guy, and 5 or 6 of them had said the same thing, which was, my sister-in-law sent me your clip on Facebook. And then I sent it to somebody, and then they inquired here, and then it went. So it was never directly connected. And I wasn't looking to find out anymore because it suited my narrative.
Right.
So it actually did help somewhat, and it did work somewhat, but it was also the lesson learning about how much did it work and how well did it work. Plus, by the way, a lot of my kids' friends saw it, and it made me famous with them, which that's all that matters.
That in and of itself is that's
there's your children right, and their friends think you're cool. That's the ultimate goal.
Yep. That's a win. All right. So if you'll indulge me, a friend of mine who's also a fellow marketer and a fellow speaker, Jen Gerlach, is also a fan of yours and has a question she wanted me to ask you. So I'm going to read it.
I'm a fan of Jen. So
okay, there you go. Perfect. I'm going to read it so I don't screw it up. All right. If you are looking to expand your personal brand as a professional during COVID,
meaning during a time when people aren't seeing each other face to face, and could pick only one or two platforms and strategies, what would you recommend?
It's a great question, and I don't want to give a cop-out answer for it, but you need context for it.
Sure.
Because I could say right now, create video. You know, I could say write blog posts. I could say do a podcast. I could say all those content kind of layer, write that book, you know, practice that talk, work on all those things. But it's not taking into the context of the actual individuals that would need to do the work.
Sure.
So where that comes to is like, we're huge fans of going with your grain. Okay. Which is like, what do you want to do? What is natural for you, or something you want to get better at and do? Do you like writing? Okay. Then I would focus on creating a blog post, but I'd also focus on making some kind of report, something that I can pull, that I can give away, people can download, because then it's easily shareable that way as well. It's even better. I could be a sellable product. I could, you could put it up in Gumroad in 10 minutes from now, and boom, you could be selling this stuff anytime. If you like video, then there's a whole bunch of a swath of video when it comes to live, to doing a show, to doing just recorded or scripted videos. And then if you just like talking, but you don't want to be on video, and you got podcasting, you got a bunch of things with that. But at the end of the day, what I really, really think would be the best thing to do for a personal brand right now is, regardless of what you pick, and only pick one or two to start one of those things, is to try to make it also as evergreen as possible.
Right.
Because the problem I'm seeing, and I'm not sure if you've seen this too, but a lot of people are just trying to shoehorn their content around COVID. Which is like, they're like, well, now I can speak about resilience, and if I can take this old post and mention the word resilience in it, then it's going to work for COVID. And they open the thing with, in these trying times. I don't need another brand. But we're also in a catch-22, because I know I don't need another brand telling me in these trying times we're thinking about you. But if they don't say anything, do they sound that just not reading the room? And that's the problem with that. And I just think that we are getting exhausted by in these tough times type of stuff.
Yeah.
We are getting exhausted by everything is about COVID, but yes, it's also a pandemic. So everything is about that. But I think we can create content right now that can be used right now and still be sensitive to that somewhat, and not just pretend that everything is normal and you're all going to be referring to going out and doing all these type of things. But I think you can create core content right now that can be used, that is useful right now, but that has a long tail to it when it comes to content. Because what I don't like about this world right now of digital, and I love disruption. That's my jam. I love tech. I love things being shifted and moving and more accessible and more scalable. But what I don't like about this is the expiring content world. The 24-hour and it's dead. Now, I'm not just talking about a Snapchat message or a Instagram story or something like that. I mean, the algorithms in almost every social site that's based on relevancy is that one of their biggest part is time decay. The older it gets, the less chance it's going to be. And I totally understand it. I totally get it. And I would do it too. Except as a brand, when you create content, we used to have, content calendars, and you create something and you build it, and then you'd have the first, that day and that week, that month, and it would just, but then you'd long tail it. It would be good for SEO the rest of the time. I am not about expiring content. I am not a fan of that. I am not now, by the way, if it's authentic, if it's off, shooting from the hip, off the cuff type of stuff, that is perfect for brand expiring content, because it gives you a human side. It works well. But this produced stuff, it takes so long and so hard that you've got to give it a shelf life. It's got to be able to last. And we are such a Jack Russell Terrier on speed, running after squirrels with content these days. There's 17, different social platforms that put it on, 73 different orientations for every single post. And by the way, I do have some beef right now. I need to get off my chest that my kids, those millennials and Zers and Zers, if you're in Canada, Z, and sorry, flipped it around. Zer for you, Z for me. They keep telling me, Dad, you got to do horizontal video. You got to do horizontal. I'm like, fine. I finally turn my flip phone, over, and I'm kidding. But I gave up my BlackBerry more recently than I'd like to admit.
They are a Canadian company.
Finally, thank you. Finally, I've got horizontal. Fine, my life is horizontal. Everything's horizontal. I take pictures horizontally, video, and then I do it. And they're like, you got to do it vertical. Like, what are you talking about? Well, it's because TikTok and Instagram. I'm like, no, Instagram, I do landscape. They're like, no, Instagram stories. I'm like, what the? Could you all get together and figure this stuff out, please?
Just write me a freaking memo already.
It's just something, which is, I swear, it's just like, it's like something, places like Canva and stuff have been my saving grace, just resizing stuff.
Yeah.
Just like, even just for the audit, when like, for me, I got a Canva Pro membership solely so I can do the one-click resize to 17 different platforms. It was just like, it just saved me so much time on that. Now being back in the practitioner mode of stuff for our own content, I'm just like, how do you even, like, remember when I was a practitioner, when I was doing the marketing of stuff 12, 15 years ago, the graphics design person did the graphic stuff. This person did this, this person did this. And I'm like, why is there 17,000 tools for everything now? It's crazy. It's crazy. So
it really
long-term content and going with your grain, to answer a long-winded answer of Jen's question.
Which I think can also apply to really B2B companies too, because I feel like a lot of our clients are coming in saying, well, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. And my reply to them is, well, wait a second, what are you going to do well?
Exactly. And plus, if you put, and this is one of the things I find with especially the B2B companies too, where they're like, well, why don't we put something up over here? And I would tell people, if you put content somewhere and you're reaching your customers, then that's where you are. So when I have an issue with something and I see you put an Instagram story up or something like that, and I reply to that, you better have a channel there that makes that work properly.
Yep.
You open that door to content. You've also opened the door to conversation. I could not care less if you don't want to have a conversation in there. It doesn't matter. You can't tell a customer they're standing in the wrong complaint line, right? You can't. It's like standing in a line. You finally get to the front. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, returns are down there."
Yeah.
Right. I send you a tweet, or look, if I see, we don't see, customers don't see silos. We don't see departments. We see the brand. And that's when you open that's why I never suggested people going to on every platform anyways, unless you can manage it, unless you're going to pay that social media customer care traffic controller good amount of money to handle this stuff and give them a team. Then don't go running downstairs and say, I just read something in Time magazine that says we should be on Tweezer. Go.
Do it now.
It's got to go back to exactly what you and I talked about at the start of this thing. Is it, going back to your brand type of, integrity and transparency and results. Does this fall under those things? For us, it's the same thing. Does this fall under integrity and community and authenticity?
Right.
And then why are we doing it? And Alice and I have these conversations now. And before I was like that too. Oh, I just did this here because I wanted to do it. And we're like, what's part of the strategy? And part of strategy though, is you come up with it beforehand.
That's why it's called strategy.
It's why it's called a strategy instead of a reaction. Okay. And a strategy, if anybody is worth their weight in anything, strategy is done sequentially. So we have a strategy for this quarter, this 6 months, this year, goals, strategy, and your budget. It's pretty simple. It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
And when you come and say, hey, we should be doing this, when we used to do consulting back in the day, this is where I've got all my wrinkles from and my hair gray. I've lost my hair because of consulting.
Oh.
But they would come to us and they'd be like, well, what about this? And we would just show them and say, okay, here's the plan. Which do you want to take out to put this in? Or did you get an increase in budget you didn't tell us about? That's really what it came down to, because I'm not doing more with less with this.
Yeah.
And part of, I think, is a good agency and a good representation when it comes to anything digital, anything that comes into a company, is that you should always be going back to the center focal point, which is, okay, so how is this helping us with more integrity and transparency, or help our results? How does this help authenticity community? How does this help this goal? Because we had discussed this. Now, clients don't like to hear that, right? Clients just want to be right. And they're like, well, I think this, right? I think this. But like, look, our goal is to make sure we meet these measurable, right? Actionable metrics. That's why we came up with them. And doing this will take away from that. Now, we can get these metrics, or we can do these things. I can get you the vanity metrics of it. If that's what you want, let's do it. but sometimes it's hard to do that. And I just found with consulting for me, it was just like I would say something, I would do something, and then they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen. And they're just like, well, nothing's working. I'm like, because you haven't done anything. You've done none of the things. I ran one of the most successful viral video companies on this planet in the early to mid 2000s. And so we did viral videos back in the day with dial-up. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So it was you had a buffer screen, you had a loading screen. All the flash files, it was in Flash, had to be under a meg in size. And so we made them, and we were the most successful one anywhere. We made 60 client videos over 6 years. Back then, we guaranteed every video would have at least 100,000 views, and back then that was epic. And we had one client who we did it, and the whole goal was the landing page for these things, right? We'd show they watch it, and if you're listening right now, if you want what I'm talking about, they were glorified slideshows,
right?
So you'd go, and if you go like the timemovie.com, the dashmovie.com, and it was cheesy music, stock photography, and just like words come across the screen. The majority of those that were online back then were ours, and I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And
thank you for apologizing. We've been waiting years for that, but
the big difference was the landing page at the end. So the reason why they weren't on, we never moved it onto YouTube was the conversion at the end. That's what you pay for,
right?
Which was building pretty much mailing lists for the client. And so we'd build mailing lists of hundreds of thousands of people with these things. And we had one client where she had booked us to do it, and we made it for them, and then we launched it. We had a list of people we'd send it to, and they were hungry for these things. And 4 or 5 hours later, my phone rang, and I picked it, and it was a client, and I just thought she'd be ecstatic. And she's like, "What is happening?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what is happening with this video?" And I'm like, "It's working. It's going. It's going viral. It's awesome." I use a shopping cart company. So I was using a shopping cart company back then as one of the main ways to do a mailing list.
Right.
Was to use a shopping cart. It was a oneshoppingcart.com, I think, back then. And she's like, "Well, the number of signups I've gotten has bumped me to a higher tier of pricing." And I did not expect this increase. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought we discussed this. This is not acceptable. And I'm like, do you want me to turn it off? She's like, "Yes, please."
Wow.
So I turned it off.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know. I find humans fascinating. I would like to study them one day behind, glass or something.
Yes.
The species is fascinating to me. I don't understand, but I won't figure it out either. I was going to say I was going to figure it out, but I won't.
No. If you try, you'll go mad.
You will go mad.
Totally and completely mad. Well, Scott, this has been a blast, as I expected it to be, and I really appreciate your time.
Of course.
So much great stuff in here. And so that's it. Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah.
Be well. Be good to each other. Bye.